Remember the old days when we used to play hide and seek? Well, maybe a lot of you don't remember that anymore because you only played video games in front of a screen. But hey, go play hide and seek sometime. It can be pretty fun, even if you are an adult. You know, sometimes finding places to hide inside your own house can be quite rewarding. You could easily end up finding secret spots you didn't even know existed. And the truth is, there are many houses with secret rooms for all sorts of activities. From media rooms to men caves and secret passages, many houses around the world are filled with spaces that not many people are aware of. In today's video, we'll be looking at secret rooms in different houses around the world. Our first entry is a secret passage for the cook. You would never know about this place if it wasn't for me, so you're welcome, Internet. Tag me in the comments below. And even if you were to walk inside this house, you wouldn't be able to see this passage. All you'd see is a huge rug on the floor. Nothing suspicious at all. However, if you move it, you'll see that it's covering a spot on the floor with a hatch that is connected to the wall through a rope and a racket. And if you unlock that, you're gonna see an old flight of stairs that lead you down to a Scooby-Doo-esque hidden lower floor of a house that is almost 200 years old. Our next entry is the room behind the shelves. Don't let these shelves fool you. This might look like the perfect reading nook, but the shelves are also doors, and behind them you're gonna find a secret media room. I guess this is pretty useful for adults who want to watch TV away from their children, or play violent video games, or drink, or all three at the same time. Ooh. Unless, of course, the children figure out a way to break into the room themselves. Our next entry is a religious hideout. The Farla family was celebrating Good Friday in their home in Shropshire in the UK, when they finally took the courage to investigate what was underneath an odd-looking metal grid in their house. They didn't find any buried treasure or a troll's room, but what they did find was a brick room. But what made the experience a bit disturbing was that there was a stone symbol on a rock in the center of the room, which looked like a cross. One of the history experts in the community said the place was probably a hiding place for Catholics who were persecuted in the past. Our next entry is a bit more disturbing. It came with a guest. Usually whenever we talk about secret rooms, we look for them behind the bookshelves. But there's this family who refused to reveal their identity, and they found a very creepy and mysterious spiral staircase behind one of their bookshelves. When they did follow the staircase, they finally made it to a room in which they found sweet wrappers and a lot of other items that indicated that someone was living there. To make things even worse though, some of these items were stuff that had been taken from the family's home in the days prior to the discovery. They immediately left the house and called the police, who later confirmed that the house had to be boarded up. Ugh, just the idea of a stranger living in my home without knowing. Well, sadly they weren't the only ones. Our next one is the random college roommate. Here's another group of people who did know they had an extra guest living in their home. This time it happened to a group of college students at Ohio State University. For a long time, these guys were convinced that there was a ghost in their house. They'd often hear noises and find a lot of their cupboards open for no reason. But when they finally took the courage to explore their house, what they found was a room in their basement, which was behind a door that they had never seen before. And inside that room, they found a lot of textbooks, a double bed, and other belongings of a guy named Jeremy, the roommate they didn't know they had. Sadly, they had to leave a note for Jeremy telling him that it was time for him to move out and find a new place to live. Or, haunt. Our next entry is more drinks at the bar. This awesome kitchen comes with a bar and a wooden floor that'll make a lot of people get excited. If you look closely, you'll see there's a rectangular mark on the floor which leads to a secret cellar where you can find all sorts of wine. I guess this is very exciting news for anyone who visits this fancy kitchen. And also, of course, a couple of alcoholics. Our next entry is a secret office space. This space was designed by Christy Kapat, a talented interior designer who knows how to make the best use of any space, and she managed to build a full office space tucked inside this wall. In fact, the space is so well designed that it can easily be covered by a door, and you wouldn't even be able to tell it's there. Our next entry is gonna please any American out there. Hide your guns. The US is one of the few countries that allows its citizens to own guns. There are all sorts of political discussions about that, which I'm not gonna cover today. Yet. Whether you have a positive or a negative view on gun ownership, the one thing we all need to know and remember is that guns should be kept in a safe space, away from children and from anyone who does not know how to use them. And the owners of this house are well aware of that. That's why they designed this heavy bookshelf with a security door that cost them around $13,000. For that price, I hope the space remains safe, away from the reach of any intruder. Also, I hope they got a lot of ammo for that kind of little armory there. Ooh. Our next entry is the creepiest room. Now take that armory about now. House hunters are likely to run into all sorts of creepy situations when they visit abandoned spaces. After all, they don't always know who lived in the houses prior to their visit. That is what happened to a house hunter who explored a basement and found a pair of peepholes as well as a lot of disturbing messages written on the walls. Things like, "No watching Isaiah through the hole," and "Stop watching me" were among the messages that the house hunter found. And apparently the space belonged to someone named Joshua, who probably lived in the basement and watched people through the peepholes. Our next entry is the Narnia-inspired playroom. If you read the Chronicles of Narnia, then you know about the famous wardrobe and its secret passage to a magical land that may involve a witch. Might even involve a lion if you're lucky as well. Well, a creative mother and her best friend came up with a clever idea to recreate this magical scene for a child. They grabbed an old wardrobe and turned it into the entrance to a playroom that closely resembles what Narnia is all about. The walls are painted with famous scenes from the book. There's a white rug in the center, which represents the snow that covered Narnia before the return of Aslan. But the children playing in this room are having a great time, especially if they read the Narnia books. Our next entry is yoga after reading. What would you rather do in your free time? Would you go to the bookshelf for a book to read, or would you prefer to do some yoga instead? Well, it doesn't matter. You can do both in this space. This bookshelf has a sliding door that leads into a compact and cozy yoga studio. And don't worry, the books won't fall out of the shelf. The owners of the house use museum wax to hold the objects in place, which is very helpful when you use the door. Our next entry is hiding in the fireplace. There was a couple in Arizona who grew concerned about a series of burglaries that were happening in their local community. That's why they hired an expert to design a safe space for them to run in case their home was ever invaded. And you know where they put the hiding place? Right behind the fireplace. But if you want to access it, you first need to find the secret switch that'll open the secret door for you. And this hiding place wasn't cheap at all. It cost roughly $15,000 US for the couple to get their small safe space, and they do think that it was worth it. It had to have been a pretty dangerous area since they considered the expensive option when a good old 12-gauge shotgun cost less than $500. Our next entry is no guns only, Batman's room. Is it Batman's room or should I say the Batcave? Either way, this room will definitely make you feel like you're inside the superhero's home. And in order to access this Batcave, you need to go through a tennis court where a portion of it will lift and show you the ramp that you need to use to get inside the fancy garage. This garage, by the way, could easily fit a Batmobile and plenty of other cars. In case it's not obvious though, let me tell you that this place was inspired by The Dark Knight, the 2008 Batman film by Christopher Nolan. Funny enough, the name of this mansion is Wayne Residence and it's in Melbourne, Australia. Now it's time for today's best pick. The picture I chose for today shows us a secret room with an entrance that is underneath the house's main floor. Imagine if there was a secret room right under your own house. Well, the next story will show you what that looks like with the underground apartment. A man found this trapdoor into his new apartment. When he finally opened the door, he found a full room with a bed and some graffiti on the walls. As he explored his new room, he also found parts of the floor that had been dug up, which inevitably made him wonder whether something had been buried by the previous owners. I suppose some questions are better left without an answer, unless of course you're ready for some dark and creepy revelations. It really does make me wonder what happened in the secret room, but I guess we'll never know. Before we move on, do me a favor. My analytics show that only about 15% of you watching are actually subscribed. Come on guys, what's up with that? Can you guys please hit the subscribe button? You guys watch my videos every day anyway, so you might as well subscribe and keep up to date with every video we put out. Our last entry for the day, folks, is a magical pool room. Most or perhaps all of the rooms I listed today are pretty small, but packed with a lot of things. After all, a secret room can't be that big, otherwise people will easily find out what they are. But the room at the top of this list is a fancy pool room inside a mansion. This home in Surrey, England can give you access to a swimming spot if you're able to find the button that'll make the ballroom floor turn into a fancy pool in just 6 minutes. Pretty crazy, right? At first sight, no one would know there's a fancy pool right underneath the luxurious ballroom. But I guess that makes sense for a super mansion that has 6 bedrooms, a supercar turntable, and even a room for wine and cigars. Have you checked your house to see if there are any secret rooms? Or maybe you found a secret room inside someone else's house? Well, let us know what it's like. Sounds like it'd be very fun to explore a secret room unless it's taken by a secret guest. With all that said though, that's our video for today folks. Thank you very much for watching it, and I'll see you all next time. Later everybody.